we're buddies
Okay.
already. I was like, yeah, it's a jab, yeah.
We recently had a chance to take up this gorgeous 1973 Cardinal 177 Bravo. Now, if you were to look at this aircraft, the average person would figure it's just another Cessna 172 Skyhawk. In reality, the Cardinal is above a Cessna 172 in my opinion, for several reasons. The design attributes of this aircraft do have some similarities to the Cessna 172, but there are also some differences. The Cardinal was originally designed by Cessna. It was to replace the 172 and was first flown in 1968. This model is a 177 Bravo with 180 horsepower Lycoming 360. It has a constant speed prop, which is a pretty neat feature, as well as the avionics systems have been nicely upgraded. We were flying out of South Florida near Orlando, and the plan was to do a little flying around the Disney World area and some of the scenery associated with that. What I really like about the aviation community is all the different types of airports and airpark communities. Florida especially has some of the best airpark and small airports I've seen in the nation. The runways are in great shape, the taxiways and the hangars, and overall just the quality of the airports seem to be of a higher pedigree in Florida. Maybe it's the weather, who knows. As we're getting ready to take off here, we do a quick pre-flight check and then throttles up and off we go. I was actually quite impressed with the takeoff performance of this Cardinal. Being only 180 horsepower, it was actually pulled significantly greater, and the climb out was greater than I ever expected. The constant speed really makes a difference when it comes to takeoff performance as well as in-flight cruise. You can really milk every bit of power out of the engine. Now, if you look closely here, your typical 172, you normally see something here. On a Cardinal, you don't. If you guessed it, it would be a wing strut. And that's something that Cessna actually did away with in the Cardinal design. They wanted a more sleek and better viewpoint for the pilot and passenger. So they actually structurally increased the wing area to remove the strut. So anytime you see a strutless airplane in the design of what would be a Cessna 172, it's actually a Cardinal. Another aspect that is different from the Cardinal versus your typical 172 is the pilot view area. Now, if you were to look at this point of view, you'd just figure it's just a typical 172. But when this Cardinal was designed by Cessna, they actually moved the front dash and forward pilot and passenger seating area forward and increased the windshield viewpoint area greater. The percentage-wise, I'm not sure about, but if you were to look at your typical Cessna 172 versus a Cardinal in the front viewing area, the Cardinal has significantly greater viewing area. And that is because they moved the pilot and passenger forward, and the typical high wing area was behind the pilot rather than above the pilot. This allowed to look for oncoming air traffic with a much greater view area and view capabilities than your typical high wing 172. And I really liked it, especially when you're trying to look around for other aircraft above or to your side. The viewpoints of the 177 Cardinal are far greater than the 172. Now, the guy that owns this to our left here is Mark. He's actually KC-135 pilot and the wing commander at MacDill Air Force Base. Super cool guy, and well, if an Air Force pilot approves of the Cardinal, it should say something about the aircraft itself. What I really also liked about the Cardinal was small design aesthetics. The interior was full leather interior. The dash panels, the side, the door panels, the control yoke even was leather wrapped with Cardinal on it. And we had a full flight on this one. We had 4 passengers. The rear seats were leather, the ventilation, the window areas, everything was just seemed of a higher quality standard. And that's something that is attributed to the Cardinal design. That strutless wing design actually is just fascinating to me. It's beautiful. And you normally wouldn't pick up on it until you actually fly in one and see that there's no wing strut area there. Cruise speed was actually pretty impressive. We were doing about 140 knots, 150 knots given the day. Everybody's super comfortable, and obviously you can see the the interior for a 1973 model, it looks really nice. Florida definitely has some beautiful countryside. The amount of bodies of water in this state is mind-boggling, and it definitely puts you in perspective about having an engine out and where would be a good place to put the plane down, because the amount of options that you have are quite limited where we are flying. Obviously, I'm not too worried about the PIC here. Is probably one of the most experienced aviation guys I've flown with. You kind of get a good essence of what the view area here is. It really is impressive. It almost feels like it's a bubble canopy, except a bubble canopy on a high wing airplane. In my opinion, the control surface area of the Cardinal versus your typical 172 was even improved. I felt that the roll rate, the sensitivity of the control surfaces, both the aileron and the elevator, were really nice inputs. Also, how the aircraft flew without any control input was also impressive. Your typical airplane will kind of yaw to the left or the right, has some turning tendencies. When you let go of the control surfaces on the Cardinal, it just flew straight as an arrow. Had both elevator and aileron trim, but really you didn't need it. It's a very true flying aircraft. Here we're coming in for a landing, and you can see the airport just to our upper left, about 11 o'clock. It's a tight little space. But at least you have a highway to your right if you can't quite make the runway to your left, jokingly. So in my opinion, what are my thoughts of the Cardinal 177? Well, I think it's a better version of a Cessna 172. Price points, they're not cheap. You'll be spending, $90 to $130 for a nice one, but I think it's well worth it. It just is a better built, faster, and more luxurious version of a Cessna 172 Skyhawk. Hope you enjoyed this video, and if you're considering a Cardinal or own one, well, in my opinion, it's an aircraft that I greatly approve of, and I think Cessna's done a great job on it.